What if I told you that there is a place in our world where the ground beneath your feet could explode at any moment? A place where it could happen today or tomorrow. This place exists, and this may very well be the year the eruption finally happens. It is about Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park is located in the northwest corner of the United Island of America and has been the home of the Native American people for over 11,000 years. Its name comes from the Yellowstone River, which gets its name from the many Yellowstones that can be found there. The river got its color from the large number of bison bones and other animal bones in it. But these bones got there because of another reason why Yellowstone got its name, because it is home to the largest concentration of bears in the contiguous United States. It is also home to thousands of geysers, hot springs and mud pots, and more than half of the world's active geysers. It is a paradise for scientists who study the Earth, but those who study the Earth have noticed something in recent months that makes them a little nervous. The Earth is rumbling under our feet like never before, so much so that they have already begun evacuations and preparations for the worst-case scenario, a volcanic eruption. So, what exactly is happening at Yellowstone? Will 2025 be the year of the eruption? Let's find out in today's episode of Fake News or Real. Volcanoes are ranked according to their danger level. If we rank them by size and activity, we get what is called the Volcanic Explosivity Index. On one side we have lava lakes, Strombolian, Plinian, and on the other end of the spectrum, the most violent type of eruption, the ultra-Plinian eruption. Ultra-Plinian eruptions can eject more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of material into the atmosphere. That's why the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines in 1991 is considered an ultra-Plinian eruption. Yellowstone's last major eruption was around 640,000 years ago, when a supervolcano erupted with such violence that it ejected 2,500 cubic kilometers of material into the air, which led to the formation of the Yellowstone caldera, which is currently the park's most visited attraction. Since then, life has returned to the area, and the so-called Yellowstone Supervolcano has fallen asleep. Or so we thought, until 2 weeks ago. In January of this year, scientists registered an earthquake swarm near the park's famous Old Faithful geyser. In total, there were 25 earthquakes between January and February, all of magnitude 3 or less. While these earthquakes do not pose a danger to the population, they do attract attention. And that's because there is a direct correlation between earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Earthquakes are usually the precursor to a larger event. They are the first sign that something is happening below the surface of the Earth. The last time there were so many earthquakes in the region was in 1985, when a magma chamber began to fill up. Magma chambers are like storage rooms for magma that feeds the hydrothermal systems of Yellowstone. They are also a good indicator of whether a volcano is about to erupt. In 1985, scientists were able to observe how the magma chamber filled up, thanks to the seismic activity, how the pressure increased, and how the Earth deformed. They had never been able to do that before, nor have they been able to do it since. But in 2022, it happened again. Starting in early July, seismic activity picked up dramatically, registering more than 1,000 earthquakes over the course of a few days. This is extremely unusual. It is typical for an area with seismic activity to register only about 1 to 2 earthquakes per day. The swarm started and ended abruptly. It didn't cause much damage except to the nerves of the residents, but it did catch the attention of scientists. They are investigating what happened in detail, but some have already ventured a first assessment. For example, Jacob Lowenstern, scientist at the Cascades Volcano Observatory in Vancouver, Washington, says that the swarms could be attributed to pressure changes within the magma chamber. However, he sees no indication that the magma chamber is filling up again. But this opinion is not shared by everyone. Henry Glicken, a geologist from La Sapienza University in Rome, believes that the swarm indicates that the magma chamber is filling up again and that the magma is rising. He says that the Earth's crust in the western part of the caldera has risen by several centimeters. He came to this conclusion based on satellite data from the European Space Agency, which showed that the ground had risen by up to 7 centimeters. According to Glicken, the magma chamber could be filling up again at a rate of 1 liter of magma per second. But Glicken is not just a random scientist. He has been studying Yellowstone for decades and has made some remarkable predictions about the next eruption in the past. In 2018, he predicted that there would be unrest at Yellowstone in 2021. And guess what? There was unrest at Yellowstone in 2021. Now he's making headlines by claiming that the magma chamber could be filling up again. There are currently 250,000 people living in the state of Wyoming, which includes Yellowstone National Park. Should the volcano erupt, they would have to be evacuated immediately. But even that would not be enough. Should the worst come to the worst, the US government has a plan. It is called the Yellowstone Supervolcano Threat Assessment and Response. According to this plan, millions of people would have to be evacuated from nearby cities. Only about 10% of those affected would be relocated outside the country. The rest would have to make their own arrangements. To make matters worse, in a report commissioned by the US Geological Survey, it was calculated that after an eruption, ash would cover an area of 750,000 square kilometers. We are talking here about parts of 5 US states, including parts of the capital Washington, D.C. As a result of this, essential services such as water, energy, and food supply would collapse. The economic consequences would be enormous. Even though Yellowstone National Park receives about 4 million visitors a year, tourism would grind to a halt. If the eruption were to occur during the summer months, the consequences would be catastrophic. So far, everything sounds pretty dramatic. Are the scientists' worst fears coming true, or are they unnecessarily blowing smoke up our skirts? Let us look at the facts. Since the beginning of this year, seismic activity has noticeably increased. In the first 9 months of 2023 alone, 3,000 earthquakes were recorded, which is almost twice as many as in the same period in 2022. However, this increase in seismic activity is not necessarily due to an impending eruption. Increased seismic activity is often associated with periods of inflation, a gradual rise of the Earth's crust. And this brings us back to the satellite data. Satellite measurements show that the ground in the northwest corner of the caldera has risen by up to 7 centimeters since 2018. The rest of the caldera has sunk by 6 centimeters. However, this movement is quite normal for Yellowstone. It is not uncommon for the Earth's crust to rise and fall by a few centimeters. It usually has nothing to do with volcanic activity, but is due to factors such as water levels, precipitation, snow load, wind, and temperature fluctuations. This means that the ground movements could also be due to the fact that a lot of snow melted in spring 2023. Yes, that's right. All this talk of a volcanic eruption might be nothing but nonsense. It might be that the ground rose and fell a few centimeters due to melting snow. But let's be honest, it's not likely that all this fuss is about nothing. Yellowstone is an active volcano. It will erupt again one day. However, this will probably not happen in 2025 or in the next 100 years. The increased seismic activity and the ground movements are certainly nothing to dismiss out of hand. Scientists will continue to monitor the situation closely in the coming months. But don't worry. Should the worst come to the worst, you can always hide in Canada. Then I'll see you next time.